The universe doesn't choose the loudest, it chooses the realest. And when the real ones rise, silence becomes the loudest sound in the room. They poked the quiet storm, thinking it wouldn't strike back. They laughed behind your back, not realizing they were mocking the thunder before the lightning hit. They saw you walking alone and mistook your silence for weakness. But the silence wasn't weakness. It was warning. This message is not for everyone. This is for the chosen, the ones who've been talked about, torn down, left out, and underestimated. You were never fighting people. They were fighting the force behind you. They weren't clashing with your name. They were challenging the universe that called you. And trust this, the universe doesn't pick favorites. It picks fighters. Before we go further, if you feel this message deep in your bones, don't scroll past it. Like and subscribe so this message can find more chosen ones. When you engage, you help wake others up. When this video moves, it's not just content. It's a signal. You're not just watching this. You were meant to hear this. They feared your silence because silence means you're listening, planning. They mocked your stillness because still waters run deep, and deep water doesn't splash, it drowns. You didn't need to announce your comeback. You just needed to move in it. And when you did, everything changed. Let's be clear, this is enough is enough. How you silenced the critics and took back your power. This is the story they'll never tell, but the one you lived through. They don't talk about how many nights you swallowed your anger, how many betrayals you bit your tongue through, how many fake smiles you gave just to survive another day. But now, survival isn't the goal. Domination is. They called you arrogant when you finally respected yourself. They called you cold when you stopped being their doormat. They tried to shame you for pulling away, not realizing you were finally protecting what was sacred. Your peace, your power, your purpose. And some of you forgot who you were for a moment. You really believed them. You really questioned your light just because the room was full of shadows. How dare you? How dare you forget that you were chosen? Not picked, not placed, chosen. There's a difference. Picked means you were convenient. Chosen means you were called. And the universe doesn't make mistakes when it calls someone. Your power didn't go unnoticed. It unsettled them. It haunted them. That unshakable calm in your eyes, it kept them up at night. Your ability to rise every time they tried to bury you, it burned them with questions they couldn't answer. Because deep down, they knew, no matter what they said, no matter what they did, they couldn't touch what built you. You've been walking with power so ancient, it scares the modern mind. That's why they talk. That's why they gather. That's why they try to dim you. Because people fear what they don't understand and hate what they can't control. But now they've learned. You're not here to be explained. You're here to be experienced. You're not here to fit in. You're here to shift the ground beneath those who ever dared to stand against you. This is your time. This is your voice. You've silenced the critics not with words, but with results. The applause, irrelevant. The doubt, expired. Your light, unbothered. And now you don't just walk in power. You are the power. Welcome back, chosen one. Let's begin. So, if you've ever felt like the weight on your shoulders was more than just life, like it was pressure meant to wake you up, then this message is yours. Drop the number 77 in the comments if you're done explaining, done shrinking, done playing small. That number tells the universe you're not hiding anymore. You're ready to own what they tried to bury. This isn't just a video, it's a turning point. And if you're truly one of the chosen, you won't just watch, you'll feel it pull you in. Now let's get into it, step by step. Number 1. When they played dirty, you went silent, and that's what broke them. They thought they buried you in silence. What they didn't know was you were just becoming too powerful to speak in lowercase. They thought your silence meant surrender, that your stillness meant you had no fight left, that because you didn't defend yourself, they had won. But here's what they never saw coming. You weren't quiet. You were calculating. They thought they were playing you, but they were playing chess with the universe itself. And the universe, it doesn't lose. They had their laughs. Oh yes, they did. They passed your name around like cheap gossip, hoping the echo would reach you broken. They created false versions of you and handed them out like party favors. But when the real you came back, unapologetic, unbothered, undeniable, they didn't know what to do with the silence that followed. That wasn't silence. That was judgment. That was the roar of the universe moving in your favor. You never had to shout. You never had to post receipts or prove your worth. You let your energy speak for itself. You let your results step into the room before your words ever did. And that's what haunts them now. Because here's the thing about being chosen. You are the glitch in their system. You are the one thing they couldn't predict, couldn't manipulate, couldn't destroy. And every time they threw dirt, the universe turned it into soil for your rise. Your glow wasn't store-bought, it was storm-built. Some of you need to hear this. Stop questioning your power just because they couldn't handle it. Stop shrinking because their hands were too small to hold what you carry. Do you really think the universe poured all that weight into your spirit for decoration? You weren't made to be digestible. You were made to disrupt. Every time you doubted yourself, they smiled. Every moment you played small, you made room for their ego. They counted on you for getting who you were, but not anymore. Enough is enough. This isn't the season of proving. This is the season of reclaiming. Not with words, but with moves. Not with defense, but with distance. You didn't silence your critics. The universe did. It stepped in like a storm dressed in your aura. When they fought you, they were swinging at fate. Every shot they threw was a slap in destiny's face, and now they're paying the price. They thought they were battling one person. They didn't know you were backed by alignment itself. They played the system, not knowing you are the system reset. You didn't fold, you evolved. You became the kind of person that doesn't argue with noise. You became the lesson they never wanted to learn. And let's talk about how your absence started to scream louder than your presence ever did. You didn't respond, and yet suddenly they were quieter. Suddenly their circle got smaller. Suddenly their laughter turned nervous. That's not coincidence. That's consequence. They weren't just wrong about you. They were loud and wrong. And now the silence is humiliating. That's the kind of silence money can't buy and pride can't survive. Here's something that will stay with you. When you're chosen, you're protected in ways your enemies can't see and wouldn't believe if they could. The timing that confused you was divine disruption. The delays were setups. The pain was preparation. The universe didn't forget about you. It was building a stage. And to the chosen one reading this, how dare you question your worth because the world didn't clap? Since when did applause validate purpose? Since when did approval determine anointing? You weren't made to be liked. You were made to leave them stunned. So remember this, they didn't just lose access to you, they lost access to the miracle that follows you. And now, when you walk into a room, they feel it. That chill, that tension, that's the weight of knowing they bet against someone who was never losing, only learning. This isn't about revenge. This is about resurrection. You didn't bounce back, you rose different. And now your silence isn't just golden, it's armor. It's thunder in disguise. It's the quiet before you become the storm. So sit back, stay calm and watch what happens next, because when the universe backs the chosen, even the shadows tremble. Number 2. They weren't rejecting you. They were running from their own reflection. A shattered mirror doesn't mean you're broken. It means they couldn't stand what you revealed. Let's get this straight from the beginning. Their criticism was never about you. It was never about your so-called flaws or missteps. It was never about your decisions, your silence, or your shine. It was about the fact that your very existence made them uncomfortable in their skin. You didn't trigger their anger. You triggered their insecurity. You walked into the room, and suddenly they had to face everything they'd buried. And guess what? That wasn't rejection. That was revelation. You weren't a problem. You were a mirror that didn't bend to flattery or fear, a mirror that reflected the truth, not the version they curated for applause. And when people see truth without a filter, they react. Some with awe, others with attack. You already know which group they fell into. They didn't dislike you. They disliked what you made them feel. You made them feel exposed. You made them feel unaccomplished, fake, fragile. You reminded them of the version of themselves they gave up on. You didn't break the peace. You broke the illusion. And when the illusion crumbled, they blamed the light instead of fixing their shadow. Let's go deeper. Why did they gossip? Why the smirks, the gaslighting, the passive aggression? Because deep down, they saw something in you they couldn't access in themselves. And when people feel powerless, they don't look inward, they lash outward. Your growth? That wasn't a glow-up, it was a trigger. Your elevation screamed to their wounds. Look what's possible when you stop settling. But they weren't ready for that truth, so they painted you as the villain. That's easier than facing the fact they never had the courage to become the version of themselves they once dreamed of. And here's what they really couldn't stand. You didn't ask for permission. You didn't wait to be validated. You didn't lower your volume to match their comfort level. You didn't sit at tables that disrespected your hunger. And instead of learning from your example, they resented you for not staying beneath them. That's not rejection. That's a self-inflicted wound bleeding on the closest target. Let's break their game all the way down. When people can't control you, they'll try to control how others see you. That's why they whispered. That's why they distorted your story. That's why they tried to spin your confidence as arrogance and your solitude as bitterness. But what they didn't understand is this. The universe doesn't respond to noise. It responds to truth. And the truth, it always finds a way through. To the chosen one reading this, stop mistaking their projections for proof. Their discomfort with your truth isn't a reason to shrink. It's confirmation that your light is doing exactly what it was meant to do. Expose everything fake around it. You are not responsible for their reaction to your rise. You are only responsible for continuing to rise, regardless. They saw your confidence and labeled it a threat. They saw your independence and tried to frame it as loneliness. They saw your peace and tried to shake it with chaos. But let's call it what it is: jealousy disguised as concern, envy dressed up as critique. They didn't want to help you. They wanted to humble you, not because you were out of control, but because you were out of their control. They'll say you changed. No, you just stopped bleeding for people who wouldn't offer a band-aid. You stopped explaining your light to people who live in shadows. You stopped holding yourself back so they could feel tall standing next to your silence. They wanted you quiet because your presence made noise without saying a word. And let's talk about those who pretended to support you. The fake claps, the hidden eye rolls, the silence during your wins. They didn't cheer because they never saw you as one of them. They were hoping your growth was temporary, that you'd learn your place again, that you'd come back down to earth. But they forgot. You were never grounded. You were growing wings. Some of you are still hurt by who didn't believe in you. Let that go. They couldn't believe in something they didn't recognize, and they didn't recognize you because you were becoming something they'd never seen before. Their version of you was built from their limits, not your potential. And when you outgrew their story, they felt betrayed by the character they created in their head. Let this burn into your memory. You are not their opinion. You are not their reaction. You are not their fear in motion. You are the reality they pretended would never happen. You are the proof that it's possible to rise with no applause, no support, no shortcut, just grit, growth, and the hand of the universe clearing your path in silence. And when they said, "You think you're better than us?" the answer isn't no. The answer is, I'm not playing the same game as you anymore. This isn't a competition, it's a calling. You weren't called to clap back. You were called to outgrow, outlast, and outshine. So next time you feel that sting from a critic, ask yourself, is this my truth or their reflection? Because truth empowers. Reflection, when ignored, wounds. And some of them, they've been bleeding from their own reflection for years, trying to convince you it's your fault. But you've moved different. You've healed different. And now your existence is a mirror that forces people to choose, evolve or attack. Most will choose attack, but the real ones, the chosen ones, they'll look at you and say, if they can rise through that, so can I. So no, you were never rejected. You were revealed. You didn't lose people. You lost masks. You didn't get smaller. They just lost the ability to minimize you. And now they can't stand the mirror they once tried to crack. Because every time they see you shine, they're reminded of who they could have been if they had the courage to face themselves the way you did. And that's the kind of pain you don't have to respond to. Just keep shining. Number 3, you took back what they were hoping you'd never find, your worth. They didn't fear your failure. They feared the day you'd stop asking for their applause. Let's call it what it was. You weren't chasing approval. You were chasing peace. And for the longest time, you believed that peace would come wrapped in someone else's validation. You showed up, gave your all, over-explained, over-delivered, and overexposed your heart to people who never clapped, never cared, and never intended to understand you. You kept trying to earn your place in rooms where the doors were never meant to open for you. Not because you didn't belong, but because they were scared of what would happen if you realized that you did. You weren't just looking for love or support. You were trying to be seen, and not just seen, but understood. But how can people who've never done the work to understand themselves understand someone as layered, raw, and real as you? They couldn't handle the weight of your soul, so they called it too much. You weren't too much. You were too powerful for their comfort. They smiled in your face while hoping you'd never figure it out. They gave you just enough attention to keep you performing, but never enough to affirm your place. That was the game. Keep you addicted to the high of being almost enough, so you'd keep chasing their crumbs like it was currency. But the day you stopped, that was the day everything shifted. That's the moment they felt the ground shake. When you stopped explaining yourself, when you stopped looking their way after every win, after every post, every idea, every step forward, they panicked. Not because you left, not because you cut them off, but because you outgrew the leash they never thought you'd notice was there. The truth is, they saw your light before you did. They always saw it. That's why they kept you second-guessing. That's why they kept moving the goalposts. That's why your best was never quite enough. Because the longer you stayed blind to your own brilliance, the longer they stayed in control. But now you see it, and there's no turning back. You've reclaimed your worth. And you didn't reclaim it from their hands. You pulled it out from the places you buried it to make them comfortable. You're not auditioning anymore. You're not performing for people who clapped louder for your breakdowns than your breakthroughs. You don't shrink to fit inside their story. You write your own now. Let's be honest, some of you bent until you almost broke. You twisted yourself into versions they'd like, tones they'd tolerate, shapes they'd accept, and still they rejected you, not because you weren't enough, but because you were becoming someone they could no longer manipulate. And here's the coldest truth. Some of them never wanted you to hate yourself. They just didn't want you to love yourself without their permission. But now, that permission slip is torn. That stage is empty. That chapter is closed. You're not desperate anymore. You're dangerous, because a chosen one who knows their worth is unstoppable. When you're no longer begging to be seen, you become unignorable. Your light doesn't flicker for attention. It blazes for purpose. Now, when they talk, it doesn't sting. It echoes back to their own insecurities. Now, when they ignore you, it's not rejection, it's a blessing. Now, when you win, you don't look around for applause because you've learned to clap for your damn self. Loud, bold, unashamed, and don't get it twisted. You didn't become cold. You became clear. Clear on who deserves access. Clear on where your energy is respected. Clear on the difference between being valued and being used. And in that clarity, you found the kind of freedom that terrifies people who only know how to exist in chains. They can't stand it now, not because you changed, but because you no longer ask them who you are. That quiet in you, that peace, that confidence that doesn't need to shout. That's the sound of someone who found their worth in the mirror, not in the mouths of doubters. And some of you still feel a little guilt, a little ache, a little pull toward those old voices. Let me say this clearly. You owe them nothing. Not closure, not softness, not space. The version of you that kept begging for love is gone, buried, evolved. You are not required to return to pain just because it's familiar. You don't need them to see you anymore. You see you. And that's the most dangerous thing of all. Because once a chosen one finds their own reflection, not the one shaped by criticism or silence or shame, but the real one, the unbreakable one, they become someone no critic can touch, no crowd can control, and no loss can undo. You reclaimed yourself. You walked away from the game. You refused to keep auditioning for a role that never matched your soul. And now, you're not looking for a seat at their table. You are the table. So let them talk, let them watch, let them wonder how you found yourself without them. You didn't need validation, you needed vision, and now that you've got it, you're never going back. Number 4, you didn't fall back, you fell silent, and that's what broke them. The most powerful response is no response at all, not because you're weak, but because you've outgrown the conversation. They called it silence. You called it strategy. They saw you pull back and assumed it was retreat. But what they didn't understand is this. You weren't retreating. You were reclaiming your energy, reclaiming your focus, reclaiming your right to not waste your breath on people who feed on chaos and crumble in peace. There's a kind of silence that screams, a kind that slaps harder than any comeback, and that's the kind you chose, not because you didn't have words, but because they weren't worth hearing them. You knew if you answered, you'd only be validating noise that wasn't even on your frequency anymore, so you didn't give them what they wanted, your reaction. You gave them what they feared, your absence, Because let's be real, they thrived off your energy, off your frustration, off your explanations. Every time you responded, you were pouring fuel into a fire they lit just to stay warm next to your burn. They didn't want resolution, they wanted relevance. And when you went quiet, you cut their supply. You stopped performing, stopped dancing around their egos, stopped defending yourself against people who decided to misunderstand you, no matter how clearly you spoke. And in that moment, your silence became a weapon, sharper than anything they could throw. You didn't yell, you didn't argue, you just walked, and your footsteps were louder than their voices ever were. They noticed. Oh, they noticed. Don't think they didn't. Your absence echoed. Your detachment exposed their dependency. Your calm starved their drama. They couldn't play victim when you refused to play the villain. That's when the silence hit hardest. When they realized you had peace without them. Here's the truth they'll never admit. Your silence forced them to sit alone with what they tried to project onto you. And that silence, that's where the panic began. They couldn't twist your words because you gave them none. They couldn't manipulate your tone because you weren't talking. You became a mirror they could no longer smash with noise. And to the chosen one reading this, hear me. Your silence wasn't weakness, it was mastery. It was you stepping into the kind of power that doesn't have to be explained. It was you learning that not everything deserves a response, and not everyone deserves access to your voice. You didn't shut down, you elevated, and in that elevation you outgrew every petty conversation that once begged for your attention. Let's stop pretending you didn't want to clap back. You did. Oh, you had paragraphs in your head, full of facts and fury, but you let them rot in your throat, not because you were scared, but because you knew your energy was sacred. You realized the moment you respond to foolishness, you level down to explain what your evolution already answered. And still, some people tried to twist your silence into guilt. You changed. You're cold now. You just walked away like it meant nothing. But you know what meant nothing. The fake conversations, the gaslighting, the endless cycle of defending your soul to people who were committed to misunderstanding it. That's what had to die, and your silence buried it. They didn't expect that. They expected you to fight, to explain, to break. But when you didn't, when you let them throw their tantrums in a room you no longer entered, they had no script left. You flipped the narrative just by refusing to speak. Because real power doesn't chase claps. It doesn't debate with cowards. And it never fights battles that aren't on its level. Real power sits still, unbothered, unshaken, and undeniable. And that's who you became. You became the calm they couldn't disrupt. You became the quiet that made them nervous. You became the storm that passed, not with destruction, but with distance. And that distance, that's where your healing happened. That's where your clarity was born. That's where the universe whispered, see, you never needed to respond. You just needed to rise. And let's be honest, some of you feared what silence would bring. You thought it would make you invisible, that if you didn't explain yourself, they'd control the narrative. But here's the twist. Your silence gave them just enough rope to reveal themselves. And while they were talking, the universe was working, aligning, elevating, preparing rooms for you that none of them can enter. Not because you're bitter, but because you've moved beyond anything they can reach. So don't regret going quiet. Don't mistake peace for passivity. What you did was brave. What you did was revolutionary. You chose not to defend who you are. You chose to be it. Loudly, silently, powerfully. Let them sit in the silence. Let them sit in the empty space your energy once filled. Let them spin their stories in circles while you build your legacy in silence. Because in the end, it won't be your arguments they remember. It'll be the empire you built while they were talking. You didn't surrender. You strategized, and now you're untouchable. Number 5. You stopped knocking. You became the force that built the damn door. They never locked you out. They just hoped you'd never realize you could build without them. Let's make something clear right now. You never needed permission. Not then, not now. But for a long time, you didn't know that, and that's what kept you small. You kept waiting for someone to nod, to clap, to say, yes, now you're ready. You handed your power to people who had no idea what to do with it, hoping that if you just proved yourself enough, they'd finally open the gate. But the gate was always a game, and you were too real to keep playing. You bent yourself backwards to be palatable. You softened your words, shrank your truth, smiled when it hurt, and swallowed your brilliance just so they'd let you sit at their crooked table. But here's the truth they never told you. They didn't misunderstand your power. They recognized it, and they hoped you'd never claim it. Because the day you did, you'd no longer need their table, their chair, or their fake little welcome mat. And that day came. You stopped asking, you stopped waiting, you stopped knocking, you stopped showing up hoping someone would see you, and instead started seeing yourself. You stopped editing the real you to become digestible for people choking on their own mediocrity. You didn't wait for the system to approve you. You became the system disruptor. And the wild part, as soon as you shifted internally, everything around you had to adjust. Doors opened, not because they finally accepted you, but because the universe bends when a chosen one steps fully into their power. You didn't just open doors, you walked through walls. The walls they swore were permanent, the ceilings they told you not to bother reaching for, the boundaries they built out of fear, disguised as tradition. Here's the part that cuts deep. For years, you were asking people for access to something they couldn't even see in themselves. You wanted them to validate your vision when they've never had one of their own. You wanted them to confirm your greatness while they were busy silencing theirs. That was the lie. That was the trap. But now you see it. Now you're dangerous. Because now you know your power isn't up for debate. It doesn't shrink for approval. It doesn't wait in line. It doesn't knock. It claims. And when you move like that, when you walk like the ground was built for your feet, not borrowed from someone else's favor, everything shifts. Respect shows up. Opportunities shift in your direction. People who used to ignore you now speak your name like they just discovered gold. Not because you begged, not because you changed for them, but because you finally stopped pretending to be smaller than you were. Some of you are still shaking off the residue of permission seeking. You still hear that voice saying, "Don't be too loud, don't be too much. Wait your turn, play it safe." Burn that script. That script wasn't written for a chosen one. That script was written to keep you tame, keep you tired, and keep you in line. But chosen ones don't follow lines. They redraw them. Let this settle in your bones. You are not here to be accepted. You are here to be undeniable. Your power doesn't ask to be included. It creates space so large that others either evolve or move out of the way. You're not in rooms because of luck. You're in rooms because you made it impossible to be ignored. You stopped trying to be enough for everyone and finally became more than enough for yourself. You stopped chasing seats and became the architect of new floors. And those who once ignored you, now they take notes. Now they mirror your language. Now they mimic your moves. But they'll never recreate the spirit behind them because your power was never a performance. It was a calling. To those who doubted you, they weren't the problem. Your need for their validation was, and now that need is dead, buried under every moment you held your tongue, every time you played small, every time you waited instead of walked. But now you don't wait. You walk in like you own it. Because you finally understand, you were never made to be granted access. You are the access point. And when you stopped seeking permission, you didn't just shift your own life. You shook the system. You exposed every lie they told you, that you needed their name, their title, their approval. And now they scramble to find a way to align with what they once ignored. But you've moved. You've leveled up. You don't speak the language of begging anymore. You speak the language of becoming. You wield power now, not because someone gave it to you, but because you remembered it was yours all along. So building, create, speak, lead, take up all the space, because the world doesn't need another person waiting to be picked. It needs more people who realized they were already chosen and moved like it. Number 6. They weren't intimidating, just intimidated by who you were becoming. The loudest critics are rarely powerful, just panicked by the power they see in someone else. Let's rip the mask off this lie right now. Your critics were never strong. They weren't bold. They weren't brave. What they were was scared. Scared of your light. Scared of your truth. Scared of the way you walked into a room and made their false sense of superiority collapse in silence. You never had to speak much. Your presence alone was enough to expose the emptiness in theirs. They didn't come at you because you were wrong. They came at you because you were right, real, and rising. They didn't mock you because you were weak. They mocked you because your strength forced them to confront the weakness they'd spent years disguising. Every insult was insecurity. Every jab was jealousy in costume. Every attempt to shrink you was a last-ditch effort to hold on to a comfort zone that your very being shattered. And let's talk about that zone, that fragile bubble they lived in, where no one challenged their fake confidence, where truth stayed quiet, and where power played nice. Then you showed up. Not asking, not apologizing, just being. And in being fully yourself, you became their alarm clock. You woke them up to everything they weren't, everything they gave up on, and everything they could never control. And that's when the claws came out. Here's what they never wanted you to know. They weren't fighting you. They were fighting what you represented. You were proof that growth is possible. You were proof that survival doesn't have to look like silence. You were proof that you can be real, raw, wounded, healing, and still rising. That scared them. Because if you could evolve through all your hell, what did that say about them staying stagnant in their comfort? So they attacked, they rolled their eyes, they whispered, they joked at your expense, and for a while you may have believed it. You may have dimmed your light, thinking you were too much. But here's the brutal truth. You weren't too much. They were too small. Not small in soul, but small in self-awareness, small in courage, small in spirit. And instead of growing, they chose to throw stones at anything that reminded them they hadn't. And let's be honest, you tried. You tried to make yourself smaller, softer, more palatable. You tiptoed around their egos. You apologized for your fire. You edited your brilliance so it wouldn't blind them. But still, it did. Because real light. It exposes everything pretending to be solid. And your light. It was a floodlight in a room full of masks. Some of you still carry guilt for outgrowing people who used to cheer for you in whispers and criticize you in shouts. Let that guilt go. You didn't abandon them. You just refused to stay in places where your glow was treated like a threat instead of a gift. They called you arrogant when you finally loved yourself. They called you fake when you finally found peace. They called you distant when you stopped bleeding just to keep others warm. But what they really meant was, we can't manipulate you anymore. We can't guilt you back into your place. We can't stop what the universe has already decided. And that's the power of being chosen. You stop apologizing for existing in full color. You stop needing permission to be loud, bold, healed, whole. You stop explaining yourself to people who wouldn't understand if you laid your soul bare in front of them. Because here's what they can't take. Your evolution isn't just personal, it's confrontational. Your growth offends them because it highlights the places they've refused to grow. You being whole doesn't just make you stronger, it makes them feel smaller. And instead of healing, they'd rather hurt you for daring to become what they couldn't. But you see them now. You see that the barking dog isn't dangerous, it's just scared. You see that their noise is volume, not value. You see that their bitterness isn't about you, it's about everything unresolved inside of them. And now that you see it clearly, you don't shrink, you shine louder, you show up without apology. You walk in truth, even if your truth offends their comfort. You understand that your light isn't something to be negotiated. It's a force to be reckoned with. So let them talk, let them watch, let them twist your growth into something ugly. Let them call your healing arrogance, because the truth is, they were never strong. They were just hoping you'd never get strong enough to stop listening. But now you're no longer available for fake praise, backhanded compliments, or half-hearted love. You don't need their acceptance. You are the acceptance, and the ones meant to walk with you will meet you in your fullness, not your fragments. The critics weren't strong, they were scared, and you finally stopped being scared of your own strength. Number 7. You don't owe explanations for choosing peace over performance. The ones who needed an explanation were the same ones who never planned to respect it. You used to explain yourself to exhaustion. Every boundary came with a speech, a disclaimer, a soft cushion of "please understand." Not anymore. Now you move with wordless power. Now you protect your peace without a single sentence. Because you finally learned the ones who get it don't need paragraphs, and the ones who don't were never listening anyway. You're not cold, you're clear, and clarity terrifies people who relied on your confusion to get access. You used to bend your energy around guilt. You used to take responsibility for how people felt about your truth. But not anymore. Now you let them feel what they feel, and you walk anyway. No apology, no translation, just truth. Because your peace is not a negotiation. They used to call you distant when you stopped bleeding on command. They called you cold when you stopped overextending. But they never noticed how much you gave before you got fed up, how much you tolerated before you tapped out. They only noticed the silence, not the storm it took to get there. Now, you're done doing emotional labor for the unwilling. You don't explain why your phone goes unanswered. You don't defend why you cut ties, stopped replying, or pulled back your access. You didn't make an announcement. You made a decision. And the decision was you. You're not building walls, you're building standards. And those who say you've changed are just mad they can't violate you like they used to. But let them be mad. Let them spin the narrative. Let them sulk in the absence of your people-pleasing. That's not your problem anymore. You've stopped talking, you've started living. And that silence, that's power. Because real boundaries don't need to be shouted, they're felt, and now yours are loud and clear. Number 8, you cut the strings. Now the noise can't pull you anymore. They wanted a reaction, you gave them silence. That's when they lost control. You used to dance for the drama. Every insult lit a fire. Every side comment made you flinch. You gave attention to shadows and time to trolls, all because you didn't know yet that your energy was currency. and not everyone deserved to spend it. But not anymore. You stopped being a puppet for negativity. You stopped letting foolishness yank your strings. You finally realized that not every comment deserves a clapback. Not every insult is worth your air. Some things are beneath you, not because you're arrogant, but because you're finally aligned. You don't argue with echoes. You don't debate with bitterness. You build. And when they throw their shade, you let your work cast light so bright they can't stand it. This isn't about being numb. This is about being wise. You understood that your peace is priceless and your light isn't meant to fuel someone else's darkness. People who live off conflict will always bait you. But now, you don't take the bait. You don't react. You redirect. They wanted you distracted. They wanted you spiraling. They wanted you defending yourself so much you forgot to elevate. But now they're talking to a wall, and that wall is your peace, high, solid, unshaken. You're not unbothered because you don't care. You're unbothered because you care more about your energy, your focus, your mission. You're on assignment. You're chosen. And chosen ones don't waste their breath arguing with shadows when they're out here building kingdoms in silence. Let them talk. Let them twist. Let them yell into the wind. You don't need to prove what the universe already confirmed. You're no longer moved by negativity. You move in spite of it. They can't pull strings that no longer exist. You're not theirs to provoke anymore. You're free. Number 9. You didn't beg for the spotlight. You took the whole stage and burned their script. They wanted you to audition forever until you realized you were born to headline. You're not waiting anymore, not for the table, the mic, the moment, or the nod. You're not knocking on doors designed to stay shut. You are the door now. You stopped asking for permission to exist loudly, and you started owning everything they told you to tone down. Your power wasn't granted, it was reclaimed. And once you took it back, the noise faded, the critics folded, and the narrative. You ripped it from their hands and rewrote it in ink they can't erase. They tried to write you out, tried to trap you in their limited script, the one where you stay small, stay soft, stay silent. But the minute you realized you never needed their lines, you walked onto that stage like it was built for your truth. And here's the kicker. You didn't even raise your voice. You raised your standard. And when you did, they couldn't keep up. Their lies lost traction. Their whispers collapsed under the weight of your reality. You didn't fight them. You outgrew them. That's the move they never saw coming. You stopped playing defense. You stopped pleading for a chance to explain. You became undeniable. Not because they finally saw your value, but because you finally did. You were never the supporting role. You were the force holding the whole damn story together. And once you saw it, their stage became irrelevant, their applause meaningless, their criticism dust. Now you walk differently because you own the space, not with arrogance, but with authority, not to prove something, but to be something they can't ignore. That's what power looks like when it's earned, not handed. When it's carved out of silence, scars, and survival. You didn't ask, you didn't argue, you showed up and changed the entire script without saying a word. And now the stage is yours, not because they gave it, but because you stopped waiting for their approval and became your own green light. And now, here we are, full circle. The noise couldn't break you, the lies couldn't hold you, the critics couldn't stop what the universe already chose. You didn't just survive, you took the power back and made the silence deafening. This is your era. You're not asking, you're not explaining, you're owning it all. If this message hit home, like the video, subscribe to the channel and drop the number 77 in the comments to let the universe know you're done playing small. Share this with another chosen one, because this power It's meant to be multiplied.